Hello everyone, I'm sitting in the Scottish borders, nice bit of heathery hill behind me there, wrapped up because it's beginning to get a bit colder, and I'm doing as I've been asked by many of you and recording a new video with lovely Debbie Zawinski, author of In the Footsteps of Sheep, and we're going to be looking at something slightly different today from her usual stick spinning, but I think you're going to love it, and I will be handing over to Debbie. Debbie and lovely Lottie. Lottie! Hello, gorgeous girl. There is a dog and it has got eyes behind all the floof. Debbie and Lottie are going to be showing us special twiggy spindle technique that Debbie has. And I'm going to hand over to Debs now.
Righty-ho. Well, I want to show you how to make yourself a drop spindle if you have nothing to hand but a few sticks. It's something that I invented when I was abandoned in the field with some lovely fleece and no spindle to spin it with. So
can't let a good fleece go to waste, can you?
Absolutely not. So I think I drew my inspiration from the Turkish spindle, but you can make a very workable drop spindle purely out of twigs. So this is little bits of willow, one long piece about a foot long, and 4 pieces about 4 inches long. Now I'm sorry, that's in old money, so that's 30 centimeters and that's 10 centimeters, yeah, and a couple of bits of string. This is just ordinary parcel string. You can, if you like, using just one of your wee twigs, spin your own little bit of yarn to tie them together.
Oh yes, like your beginner friendship
bracelet.
Spinning bracelets,
Now,
yes.
I could show you that at the end.
Yes, that would be lovely.
Okay.
Lovely. And this is a great thing, a technique to do with children, to teach them the concept of what spinning is and how wool is actually turned from fleece into a yarn. Yeah, like Debbie's showing you. Hang on, let's see if we can do a zoom without shaking it too much.
That's just a little bit of fleece, just teased out, twisted and folded to make a friendship bracelet. But that's the whole concept of spinning encapsulated in one little length of yarn.
When Debbie was demonstrating at the Woolness Festival, there was a most delightful moment when some policemen came round to see what the show was all about, and Debbie sat with a lovely police officer and made him a friendship bracelet with a twig and some fleece, and he went off wearing it with all his full uniform and great big boots and everything. It was lovely, wasn't it? It really was. It was the most magical moment. You couldn't have scripted it. We couldn't have planned it.
Yeah.
It was just one of those happy humanity moments, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally. It was one of my highlights from the whole weekend. Yeah. Righty-ho. So, I'm not terribly scientific about the way I make this, but if I show you the principles, and you might be able to better the knots that I use.
I wasn't very scientific about my filming just then and zoomed in massively to Debbie and back out again, so apologies for that.
So I take the longer stick and just sort of hold it between my knees.
Very brown knees.
The best way of doing it. And then take one pair of sticks and place them one each side of that stick. Then with one of my bits of string, tie it on the stick to start with, just roughly in the middle. And now I want to tie these twigs evenly to the...
I've temporarily decapitated you, Debbie. Just to zoom in.
This is the bit that matters. Now it's awkward. You feel as though you could do with
several extra pairs of hands.
Yeah, a couple more arms, a couple more hands, but just persist. sort of wrapping it. I think if you were a girl guide or something, you would have learned square lashing. I'm sure square lashing would have a wonderful part to play in this. But at the moment I'm just wrapping on either side of the longer twig quite tightly. Tight as I can. Shift these along a little bit more into the middle. Now, this willow has been cut a long while ago, so it's thoroughly dry, which means it's light, but it won't shrink anymore. If you cut your willow fresh, the green wood will shrink after a while, so you may have to tighten up your...
Thanks, Lottie.
Lottie knows there's somebody else in the background here. So here we are. I have just, nothing scientific about it, I've sort of bound these sticks to my long stick, about an inch from the end. So there we are. So that's what we've got so far. Now we need to put on the other two sticks in the same way, but at right angles to the first two. So I'll take my length of string, and when you cut your bits of string, longer is better. The more wraps you get around your...
And that adds to the weight as well, which I think makes it easier to use. If it's too light and flipsy, I don't find... I mean, I'm not very good at drop spinning at all. It's not one I've ever fully mastered.
Yeah.
But the extra string does help, doesn't it?
It does. It's this tends to make a very light spindle, and I'm used to a light spindle. But it often, by the time it's built up a little bit of yarn at the bottom, it often feels as though it's working a little bit more efficiently because it's got that bit more weight. So here we are again, more wrapping, tight as you can. Wishing you had more hands.
It's more stable now though, isn't it, than the very first?
Yes, it is. It is a little bit. And the person I once taught this this technique to at a workshop at Woolfest, and we had a gentleman there, and he was a sailor. So he was used to ropes and knots, and
lashing things together.
And he made the most beautiful spindle.
Did he?
Oh yes, it was much tidier than mine. It was really good. And months later, he sent me a photograph of himself somewhere in the world, don't know quite where it was, sitting and spinning on his twiggy spindle.
Oh, fantastic!
So I felt as though I had taught him a
well.
skill that he was...
The thing I think you don't realise, Debbie, is what an impact you have on people, and what a delight you are, and how people meet you and just think, wow, and you just... There is something about you, and I'm going to make you blush. Although, fortunately, you've got such a good tan, you're not going to notice. I'll know you're blushing, but there is something very special about you.
I just think it's all a bit wacky, and perhaps people don't meet it very often.
Well, maybe you are special in not quite the right way. But no, I mean, I knew from the moment I met you that you were somebody I needed very much to have in my life, and I'm very grateful that you've let me. And not run a mile in the opposite direction up a hill that I can't chase you.
We have good fun together.
We do.
Well, I faffed around how to finish this one off, but here we are. I'm just going to tie it round the bottom of my spindle, and then we'll see what we have. I think I've split the string a little bit, so it's not terribly tidy, this, but that's not going to matter too much.
Does it work? That's
it.
That's all we need.
Functionality is really what this is all about. So let's try and get them as even as possible. But there we are. That's our.
Right, I'm going
perfect.
to do my zoom.
I could just jiggle them a little bit and get them a little bit more even. But that's our twiggy spindle.
It's amazing, just from sticks that you've. Yeah. And obviously you've had some secateurs to cut those, and
yes, that's nicely sort of.
But it would
trimmed.
Work even if it wasn't trimmed, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. And very often, I mean, I do actually.
Oh yes, you've got your
penknife in my pocket, and that's
every intrepid explorer needs their penknife around their neck.
But these days,
not many of us have them.
No, it's not expected, is it?
It's not. I remember as a child longing to be old enough to have a Swiss Army penknife because my brothers and sister all got them at a certain age, and when was I going to get mine? And I was excited about the toothpick and the tweezers. I don't know if I ever did get my own Swiss Army penknife. I certainly don't have one now. And I keep thinking, do you think I need one? And I think, well, no.
I used to have a 50p one that I loved. It was just, I think, one blade, and I always took it camping. I always took it with me everywhere. But it was confiscated from me at Kathmandu airport because I'd forgotten to put it in the luggage that went in the hold. It was in my hand luggage.
Well, yes, and don't tend to like knives and hand luggage, Devs.
Not in my folding scissors, tiny little folding scissors. I wasn't allowed to take those either.
I must admit, you don't look like the person that's going to run amok on a plane with your folding scissors and penknife, but you never can tell. It's the stripy jumper that gives it all away. Trouble if ever there was any.
Anyhow, the next stage is just what you do for any drop spindle. This is a little bit of singles hand spun with a wee fluffy bit still left on the end, but any bit of yarn would do. I'm just going to tie it on below the level of my twigs and then take it up and create a half hitch to just slide over the top of the spindle, and there we are.
Ooh, hang on, I need to catch up with you. Move back out. In a bit, will you show the half hitch again, Debbie? Because
shall I show the half hitch again?
Do you mind? It's just I was trying to.
You need it so that it will dangle freely. Now, some people will spiral the yarn up to the top, but you still need your half hitch. You don't need hooks or notches or anything like that.
No, so I'm just zooming in to what you're actually going to do.
So I wrap it over my thumb.
Yep.
And I stick my thumb on the top. I then slide that off.
Oh, hang on. That's my bad videoing. Okay, yep.
And I have my half hitch.
I hope that worked, guys. If it didn't, it's my video, not Debbie's technique. So,
a twirl with the left hand, and the right hand teases out. Now, what I really want to do is not tease out more at the moment. I need to join in a bit of extra. Let me just undo my half hitch and wind that on so we've not got such a long leader. Back under the bottom, up to the top, over my thumb on the twig, slide the loop off, dangle. Now we've got a shorter length, that's perfect, and a little fluffy bit at the top. Now I'm going to use a bit of the fleece that Lucy brought me to test.
Now this is some very special fleece that my friend Mary from Crookerbeck Farm in Patterdale gave me when I was at North Pennines Wool Festival, and it's a red fox sheep, and I believe the red fox comes from Germany, and it has a red face, sort of ginger foxy face and ginger legs. The fleece on its body is sort of a creamy white, but tiny bits of the red, I believe, do come through.
There are
You've got a little...
These are slightly kempy fibres, but they're red.
Yeah.
So it feels quite robust, a bit like a hill fleece. And instead of like the kemp fibres being bright white, which they often are with a black face, these are reddish. I can see
ginger
them
red.
Out in the light.
Yes.
I can see them.
It's an amazing fleece. I haven't handled enough fleece lately, and I must admit, when I was getting someone to pull out to split the bag with Debbie, because I knew I was going to see her, and it was so full of lanolin, my hands felt ooh. And then I decided, no, just we'll take the whole lot, and I'll spin some whilst I'm up with Debbie as well.
So here,
But
I'm just teasing this out.
And you haven't, it hasn't been washed, it has just,
no, it's just as is.
In the grease. Isn't that the expression?
Yes, so I'm still in my field with my basic sort of. So there we are. I overlap the.
Sorry, I'm just going to zoom in. There we go.
The fresh fleece with the fluffy end of my leader.
Very convenient of you to have it in green, and that was, you thought about that before, didn't you?
Well,
no.
Not really, but it is handy.
It was handy.
So I'm holding the join together, giving it a good twirl, clockwise always for spinning. And I wait until the spindle's just about to stop and go back the opposite way. Catch it, and now I will tease a bit more out and allow that twist up into the join. And this way, I'll do just step by step to start with. It's a good way to learn. It's twirl your spindle, catch it, tease out a little bit, and then allow the twist up into the bit you've teased out. Once you get good at it, you can just keep twirling your spindle and teasing and allowing the twist up into your
until your arm length runs out.
Yes, that's right.
I must admit, it's quite challenging on the filming because I've got you nicely centred into my screen. I can't zoom out any further without leaping off the chair, and then trying to get the length of the spindle. It's quite funny.
What I'll do is I won't. Usually I'll spin until my hands are up here and say, this is about the button.
No, please don't.
So we get enough twist in that length of yarn so that when you relax the tension, you can see it's quite twirly. Then slide off your half hitch and hook it from round the bottom of the spindle.
And why was it round the bottom? Was it just a balancing?
Yeah, I tend to do that. It's either that round the bottom, or you twirl it up the stalk, twirl the fibre up the stalk of the spindle. And I don't know, I'm never so comfortable with that, so I hook it under the bottom. And then you try to build up your fresh yarn just at the end of the stick, just above.
Add some ballast.
Whirl. Look, there's a midge.
I've got so many midges on me, Debs.
We're going to have to maybe
decamp
finish off in our corner. Leave yourself enough to go underneath the bottom again, up to the top, make your half hitch and over. And I think we'll continue inside where there aren't any midges, because I must confess they really, really like me.
They do like me as well, so I'm very glad you're saying that.
So we're going to have a wee break. Here we are, the twiggy spindle in action again. Quick twist to the right, set it spinning, and wait until it's almost about to go backwards. Rest it on your lap, swap the pinch, tease out a little bit of fibres, and then when you let go, the twist runs up. And this step-by-step twist and rest, pinch and tease is great for starting to learn how to spin. But once you become confident, you find that you can actually do the teasing as the spindle is spinning, and you just keep it spinning by giving it a little twirl every now and again. It's wanting to be a bit wobbly, this one, but never mind. And the left hand here is constantly controlling that twist, really, not allowing it up into the fibres in your hand. Until you're ready for it. Perhaps give it a couple of extra twists to build up enough.
I'm just trying to lean back far enough so I can get the whole of the length of it.
Yeah, I won't spin anymore. And there should be a reasonable amount of over twist. You can see it. If you relax attention, it all goes twirly. And those little twirly bits will give you an indication of what your yarn will look like if you actually apply it. Because they're... And then you want to wind it onto the spindle, so you slip your half hitch off the end and hook it from around the bottom of the spindle and just wind it on, just roll it on. I think this spindle is a little bit wobbly because the actual stick is slightly curved.
Okay.
I think it's been possibly bent while it was drying a bit, but it still works.
It still works very nicely. I had to go and I'm not a good drop spinner and I managed to make it work.
So here we go again. We're just... And I mean the advantage of this sort of spindle spinning over stick spinning is that you can it's a bit quicker.
Yes, you're producing
quite a lot more yarn.
Yeah.
Per minute. But I find that although theoretically you're meant to be able to walk and spindle spin at the same time.
No, I
can't do it.
No.
I get in a tangle, the dog gets in a tangle, the wind blows and it all...
Yeah, that would be far more than patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time. It would be...
And it takes up a bit of space, you know, if you're on the bus or something, I don't know, it would be awkward, whereas the stick... Yes.
It's portable, but it's not doable in transit.
Yeah, I think that sort of sums it up. But
That's a lovely long length you've got there.
I mean, I've made... I've crocheted blankets out of spindle spun wool. So
really?
Yeah, so you can, if you just keep at it.
Yes, you see, I think my problem with spinning is I want everything yesterday. And much as I love the process, I also do want the product. And I've never actually spun enough on a spindle or a stick to do anything with at all. And so spinning on a wheel is good because I can, quite quickly spin up 100 grams of yarn that I can do something with.
You did knit my little sheep.
I did knit Bert, the sheep.
It was out of stick spun stuff.
He was, but he was tiny.
The first, when I first learned to spin, I learned to spin on a spindle that I bought, and the first wool I made was enough to make a tiny teddy bear, a hat and a scarf, I think. So that's where I started from.
Yes.
And I never thought that you could do more,
No.
Yes, spinning's great fun, but you only make tiny quantities. Yes. But I just...
We ought to show people, if you can access it easily, the wondrous shawl from your stick spinning.
Oh, now, yes.
Do you know where it is?
I think I do.
Because I know you let me borrow it. Yes, you let me borrow it the other day.
Although now that wasn't purely stick spun.
Oh, was it not? Okay.
I can bring it, but it was made purely out of picked up wool.
That was it, yes.
That was its big distinction.
Yes.
Would you still like to see it?
I would still like to see it because it's beautiful. Okay, I'm ready.
Right. So this is the scarf, or it looks like a stole, I suppose.
It is.
That I made.
You nicked it.
Out of picked up wool. So in my dog walks in the morning, there was always this wool lying along the road, and the sheep it came from they were Scottish blackfaces and Texels, and maybe crosses, maybe sort of mules as well. But a lot of the wool felt really quite nice. I thought, oh, maybe you can do something with this. And so I washed it and spun it, and it's very simple. It's a feather and fan pattern that I used, and it ended up turning into this soft, light, lacy, beautiful thing.
And it really is delicious. It's
and so much, there's been so much talked about, oh, you know, that the quality of your fleece and how everything should be X and Y and Z, and I thought, well, I just picked this up from the road,
yeah,
and look what I made with it.
Yeah.
So I just felt as though there's so much out there that is just lying around to be used.
Yeah. And I'm focusing in mostly, whilst doing this video, Debbie, on just the lustrous, soft smooshiness of the shawl.
Yes, it's a pity one can't feel it through videos, but
I think you can
dog hair here, but
I think you can just see, though, just from the video, how scrumptious it is,
and it's
very light.
Yeah, it's incredibly light. I would have to go and sort of stick it on the scales to know, but it's.
Yeah. You can just see just how fine and beautiful it is, and it just feels like it's wool. You can tell it's proper wool, but I think you'd wrap a baby in this. I've just trailed it on the floor. I'm very sorry, Debbie.
Don't worry at all.
But absolutely beautiful, and I would, pay quite a lot to have wool or a stole this delicate and lovely.
And
and
I feel
very
that,
special.
All you need is the skill to spin it.
Yes,
and it's not a difficult skill to acquire, because you can learn to spin on a stick or a few twigs.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the whole joy of
because it was it's been something humans have done for a very long time, and they had to start somewhere before they learnt the skills to develop fancy wheels and electric wheels and
and the thing that I thought was fascinating was reading in a book once somebody saying that they thought learning to spin was the first most civilizing thing that man learned.
Yeah, fascinating.
People think of the wheel, or I don't mean a spinning wheel, I mean an ordinary wheel or something sort of technological.
Yes.
But no, actually learning to make yarn and therefore make clothes meant that people didn't have to kill an animal to wear the skin.
Yeah.
They could just give them a haircut.
Lottie?
Yes, she would still quite nice.
Okay, thanks, Debbie.
How to make a friendship bracelet, or learning spinning and plying in one fell swoop for the absolute beginner. A little piece of stick, Byron would do, stick's more authentic, and some sheep's fleece. Now this is dyed Corriedale, but let's pretend we've just gathered it off a hedge in a field.
As you said, a very embarrassed Scottish blackface.
Absolutely. And what we want to do is to tease this out into a long rope of fibres. And so I hold my hands quite far apart actually, and gently pull at the end, and then move my fingers down and gently pull out a few more. So this requires just steady, gentle teasing, and it gives beginner spinners a feel for how the fibres behave. If you have your hands too close together, you can't pull anything out because you're holding both ends of the sheet with one fibre. So you have to spread your hands far.
But if you pull too hard,
oops, it falls apart. Now, at the moment, I think we're all right. You can overlap it if it falls apart, and if you're lucky, you'll get away with it. if it does break, actually, sometimes if you rest it on a surface, that'll help support it. If you've got and then we need our trusty friend.
So off camera, we have a Mr. Locket in a very nice stripy jumper knitted by Penny.
And then this is where my stick comes into play. I want to fold the other end over the stick and then pinch with finger and thumb just underneath the stick to support it. And I'm going to twist the stick. And I always describe it as being like the blades of a helicopter going round and round. Now I can feel that the fibres are twisting between my finger and thumb below it. And when I let go, you can see the twist has just run down the length of fibres there. So then I can get a bit faster and release the tension now and again, release my finger and thumb now and again, and allow the twist to run down to the other end. Sometimes just stretching it a wee bit helps it along. You have to be careful not to break it. But as soon as you've got a little bit of twist in these fibres, there is strength. And that is the whole essence of spinning.
Just adding twist to drafted out fibre, and
I can see it's beginning to make twirly little, and I release the tension, twirly little bits of sort of overspun yarn. Now we're nearing the point where we've done enough twisting, and at this point we want to fold it in half, so my reliable friend at the other end has to hold the stick as well as the end, and I'm going to now let this go bit by bit.
Oh, Mr. Locket got on the camera there.
So I pinch and let go, and you can see it twists on itself. We have given our wool fibres energy, twist energy, and it wants to even itself up. So there we are. Now we can let go at the other end and the stick, and thank you very much.
Very good assistant.
And we have a friendship bracelet. So
Excellent.
It has been spun and plied just using a small twig. Oh, I'm slipping it off the wrong end, actually. That's a knobbly end. And once we've actually folded in half, it's not going to untwist at all. If Johnny had let go of the end when we were halfway through, then the twist would have run off the end.
What a good job! He's so reliable. I chose well, didn't I?
You did. So there we are.
Lovely. Beautiful. And instead of becoming a friendship bracelet for Jonathan, this is going to be a tie on one of your little bags, which is even nicer.
You sure you don't want a friendship bracelet?